Good Tuesday to you, everybody. Incom 785. Welcome to week boom, bam, 14. Yow, we are nearly at the end. That is a scary thought, which requires more coffee, like most things in life. A little latte here for the afternoon. Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to week 14. So, this video, we're going to talk about your answers from week 14. Okay, but before we do, just a couple of reminders. We are coming right down to the wire. In fact, 1 week from tomorrow, glancing at the calendar here, that is from the 9th, is the last day of class, the 16th. Okay, so a couple of things coming up on that on the 15th, we will have our final exam. That's when I'll open it up and make it available. And then in that same week, like pushing, I think I have it set for Sunday, but we can go to Monday, the 14th. Your final projects are due. Okay. I have created a link in Blackboard where you upload those. And, just remember to list all the members of your team so I can make sure to give credit to everybody that worked on it. Okay. So come tomorrow. All right. I will expand the list of things that you should cover for the final exam. But suffice to say, like the midterm exam, your best bet to get things covered for the final exam is to go back and review Blackboard and, my videos. All right. That is in which we're talking about the stuff. So yes, this is a comprehensive exam. I'll be taking things that you learned for the midterm plus things forward. So by way of schedule, if you kind of wonder, how does that shake out? If you remember, we had basically weeks 1 through 7. All right. That took us all the way really 1 through 6 took us all the way through residency. And then week 7 was about the halfway point. So new stuff will be weeks 8 down through 14, because we are not going to have 14, excuse me. Yeah, we are going to have some readings for 15, but not many. Okay. In fact, let me just take a quick look at the schedule here for 15. Actually, maybe we have no readings for 15, because that would be more like me. Yeah, just very, very few readings for week 15, which is the start of this coming week. All right. And in fact, I think I'll just make them optional. Okay. So to get ready, for the exam, go back and review Blackboard all the weeks. If you had to divvy up your time, pay particular attention to weeks 8 through 14, because that's new stuff. And that's where the questions will be drawn. And again, pay attention to the Blackboard questions. Okay. I'm fashioning the exam questions around the very same things that I've asked you. So, remember what I always say. The one thing that I don't want you to have to figure out in this course is, what is it that I want you to figure out in this course? Okay. I will. And if you have any questions, please email me. Okay. Let's take a look at the readings from last week. We're finishing up. In fact, this week we're going to finish up our readings in Courbet and Fickert, Fikkert, Fickert, When Helping Hurts. And this book is designed as sort of a not only instructional but as a workbook. And so for this week, I thought it would be interesting to have you go through some of the reflect on these things exercises that are built into every chapter, because we haven't done that yet. Okay. So I realized after some of you emailed me, and when I mean some of you, I mean Sherlita, thank you so much, that the edition of the book that I have is not necessarily, and although I told the Regent Bookstore to get this edition because this is the one that I have, and it's actually cheaper than the new one, but I realize that may not have happened. And so there was some page mismatch, and I apologize for that. For instance, question number 1 was, please answer question 1 on page 121. Well, some of you emailed me and said, there's no questions on page 121. So then I think that was probably like Tuesday, Wednesday of last week, when you told me that, I went back and put in at the end of chapter 4. So what I wanted for both end of chapter 4, end of chapter 5, end of chapter 6 was for you to take a look at those questions. And those questions at the end threw you back to the reflections that you got at the beginning. Okay, so let's take a look at what those were in your responses. So, for example, the first reflection that kicks off chapter 4 is, think about materially poor people in North America who have asked you or your church for immediate financial assistance. Under what conditions do you believe would it be appropriate to give things or money to these people? Be specific. Okay. Okay, let's take you, Ranesh, because you answered first, so we'll take you first. If people are suffering due to food, water, shelter, medicine on a short-term basis because of recent events, we should provide immediate assistance. And by the way, I agree. Corbet would agree that there are times in which, right at that instant, when someone doesn't have anything to eat, they don't have anything to drink, and I've worked in those environments, by the way, in which there's a war, and they just need transportation out of there and then shelter to wherever it is you're transporting them. Bam, just give them that. Okay. We should provide immediate assistance. The same applies to any previous mission work, with the aid focusing on reconciliation efforts amongst others, the community and God. The key dynamic, and here you quote from the text, Ranesh, in development is promoting an empowering process as more of what God created them to be, moving towards reconciliation. Okay, exactly. And this is one of the key takeaways that I hope you're getting from this book. Okay, if you get involved with not-for-profit work and you get involved specifically with charitable relief not-for-profit work as a strategic communicator, please bear in mind, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to work to resist, first of all, the pressure from members of the board, from directors, from gift officers, all these people. You're going to have to resist that pressure and your tendency to just throw out a message that is going to work to bring in the money. But please resist the constant appeal to, we have so much, they have so little, they need this right now, this is what they need. And whether you say it directly or you imply it by saying, just if we just give them this, whatever this is, then everything's going to be right with the world, because that is not how it gets fixed. Now, for your sake, in becoming a strategic communicator and working in this field, it is much easier for you to screen the organization before you decide you're gonna try to get a job there than it is for you to try to navigate a different course once you are employed by the organization. So one of the ways to do that, if you're looking at an organization and if you're looking at, when you want to get a sense of how they do, or I should say, if you want to get a sense, and you should want to get a sense, do they understand the difference between the empowering process and the giving process? Now, the empowering process functions through the giving process, but the giving process does not necessarily serve the empowering process. And if you want to find out the difference, look at their fundraising material, look at their communications, go back and establish a history with how it is that this organization communicates with the public and with its donors. That will give you a peek into what they do, because except in the case when the organization is really, really small and there's, like 3 of you or something, most of what you're seeing by way of communication has been directed and crafted by somebody else. And the communication person's job is then to put it in a form that, is consumable for the public, and it's tight and it looks right and it goes to the right social media places and all this stuff. Okay. But the substance, I can tell you from experience, that's come from further up. And if further up is not listening to the messenger, the person sending out the messenger, you should consider passing by way of working there. Okay. So finally, you say, Ranesh, after reading chapter 4, policy should flow from your mission and vision to be consistent with the biblical perspective on the nature of poverty and its alleviation, along with consideration on degree, frequency, and length of relief effort. Further, to avoid unseen damage in these communities due to rehabilitation and relief, our efforts should focus more on inclusive development. Okay. Very well said. So that could be a question on the final exam. Okay. According to Corbet, should, maybe like a multiple choice. Our relief efforts should focus most on blank. Okay, so look for stuff like that. All right, question number 2. I asked you to take a look at the end of chapter 5 and then basically do the same thing. That is, hit that reflection question, and that question is, once you have determined whether relief, rehabilitation, or development is the correct intervention for your context, that is, where you're helping, what do you think you should do next? What are the next steps? Be specific. Okay. Daryl, let's take you. I like what you're up to here, man. Once you have determined whether relief, rehabilitation, or development is correct intervention, you should determine what services that are already being provided in the community. Excellent answer. Now, here too, again, I'm going to caution you as someone that might slip into a communication role. Many not-for-profits, and they're not, it's not like, I don't want to sound like I'm running the business down, because I'm really not. I work in it and I believe it. Okay. Many not-for-profits confuse their main thing, that is the thing we have to do. And sometimes it's just a matter of survival. Sometimes they confuse the main thing of what they have to do with the thing that they're here for, and they confuse it for raising the money. And the raising the money becomes the main thing. Now, you might be saying, but wait a second, if they don't raise the money, how can they do what they're here for? Excellent point. All right. But what you get is, mission drift for the sake of raising the money. And they start doing things that are not in line with why they are there. I worked for a very large not-for-profit for a number of years, and I finally quit because of this discrepancy, this distance, this fracture, this non-alignment. That is the reason that they were there, and how much focus they had just put on raising the money that just pulled those out of alignment. Okay, so be careful of that. If relief is the context when homeless shelters and hunger programs could be sought, if rehabilitation is the context, you should seek help from the government agencies that you're already resource and aid. If development is the context, the local state government can provide assistance. In either context, it is important to make sure that you assess the resources that are already in place. Otherwise, material poor may not know those resources exist, or you may be duplicating resources and really not getting at the problem. They will look at you as the resources and therefore never uncover a better resource that can assist. Good, excellent point. What implicit assumptions do you see about yourself and about poor people? And some of these questions, I hope, have been eye-opening for you, and asking them about, yourselves. And I've read this book, I don't know, like 10 times. And still, when I go through these exercises, I go, oh, yeah, I didn't quite realize that. Okay. Daryl, you say, one implicit assumption that I see is that we don't believe poor people know how to find the resources that are available to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be seeking help. And that is such an excellent point. I wanted to focus on that. I mean, there's an old saying that poor people have poor ways. I grew up hearing that. I'm not pitching it, okay, as a slogan. Meaning that, you know, that there tends to be, and you're going to read about this in coming pages. There is a cause and effect, and there tends to be some broken decision making processes. They're not necessarily good. Okay, but um, that doesn't mean that they're not aware of, say, that you know, because someone can't solve a problem doesn't mean that they're unaware of a problem. Because if that were the case, I mean, you know, every marriage that got in trouble, every person that landed in jail or spent more money than they should in a given month, then that could be said about all of those folks. That is, well, they just don't know what it is that they need. Yeah, there's a difference between I know this is what I need and how do I execute on fixing it. That's often where we get hung up. So for you, for your communication efforts, focus on that part. Focus more on the part of using your skills as a strategic communicator to help connect people to the resources in the process that will solve the problem, because they may very well know what the problem is. Okay, that may not be the problem. Okay. Other implicit assumptions that I think some of us have is that we believe that the poor are lazy and looking for a handout. Okay. Goes, you know, goes together. Okay. Question number 3. And this one asked you, this is at the end of chapter 6. Okay. And the question throws you back to the reflection. Imagine that your church or ministry wants you to help individual poor persons, poor communities. Whom would you ask for advice? Write down a list of people you might consult to design your approach. Now, hint, hint, wink, wink. Even before I get to the answer here that I'm going to read, and I'll read yours, Shalita's. What the book and the authors are hoping you're going to say is, at least some of the people you would ask are the poor people. All right. I mean, I'll give you an example. I live in a town where I just got a notice from my city government that they're having a meeting about city expenditures, city funds being spent on the homeless. What I, you know, and they give they give you the panel of who's going to be there to take questions and hear discussion. What I didn't see on the panel is anybody that's homeless. Okay. So again, this sort of very top down to the bottom, you know, we know everything that's the matter and you don't, and we're dictating the answers down to you. Pretty pervasive in this business. Okay. Anyway, so who would you talk to? Shalita, you say, I would seek advice from those with a relationship with the poor person or the community, conduct an adequate and appropriate approach to bring relief and variable solutions. I would not seek advice from practitioners who only process head knowledge and not real world solutions to the problems. Okay, fair enough. It reveals that I am a servant leader willing to go the extra mile to help people out of very challenging situations. I'm an advocate, and I advocate using faith-based toolbox, applying God's word with other natural interventions. Okay, very good, very good. And remember, though, you know, part of who we're supposed to be asking is the poor. Okay, last question. It asks you to stop and reflect on your answers to the previous 6 questions. That is, I think it was like A through E. Yeah. Okay. All right, Cheryl, I like what you're doing here. Let's take you. What have you learned about yourself now? And you know, these can be tough questions, but I hope that they're tough. So here's what Cheryl, and this is not something that's a right or wrong answer. I'm just, you know, I'm curious to what you'd say. What have you learned about yourself? Cheryl, you write, I've learned that I am a work in progress and that God is not done with me yet. I continue to reflect on who I am, what is my purpose, and how I can be a better Christian. There are days when I feel fulfilled, days when I really need a kick in the pants, especially on those days when anxiety kicks in and I don't pause to ask God to take control. Okay. To teach, are there any changes you would like to ask God to make in you? To teach me to have patience, to be mindful, to find calm in the wake of the storm. Amen, sister. To rely on Him to handle most of the difficult situations. What have you learned about your church's approach to ministry? Now, this is a hard one, for Catholics such as I, because that, I mean, we as Catholics, we tend to not have a lot of ministry. I mean, we'll have outreach to the poor and stuff, but are we talking to them about these godly relationships? No. Are we out in the community evangelizing? No. I don't think it's a good idea to be that sort of, very much and I'm not talking about everybody's Catholic parish, so please, I'm not painting with a big giant brush here. I'm talking about mine and my experience with my church. It sometimes feels like we're the kind of church that Corbet was talking about in the beginning that's sort of gone like this for the spiritual aspect of dealing with the poor. And that frustrates me. Okay, but back to you, Cheryl. Based on the reading assignments and learning from Corbet et al., it would help for the church to take more a more ABCD view of working with. However, I still feel as though our church has an incredible ministry. Okay. What specific things would you like to do to pursue any of the changes that you desire in yourself, your church, and your ministry? I feel as though I'm running fast just to keep up with the pace at work. And I can understand that. Okay. Sometimes it's all you can do, man, and just to keep bailing out the boat. Okay, we're in a very high tempo work environment, and there's very little time to eat lunch, let alone leave work after 8-hour day, which turns into a 10-hour plus. Yeah, because the work never ends. Due to pop-up meetings and unexpected fires to put out that absorb my time. Thankfully, our Daily Bread has an audio app so I can listen to my daily devotion in the morning. I've been in the position as Director of Public Relations Affairs for a year and a half, and there are days in which I feel as though I'm not ready for this role. And and I got to tell you, Cheryl, I think at least for me, and I hope everybody else, I appreciate your candid reflection. And I'm gonna share something with you. A lot of people that felt that way. I have felt that way. Okay, at times. Thankfully, our daily, okay, not ready for this role, but I also feel as though God put me here for a reason. I'm a work in progress. Amen. Amen. Okay. Okay. Good work, good answers. Keep working on those semester projects. Go back and study Blackboard to get ready for the test. All right. We're coming right down to the wire. Everybody, you are doing great. You know what? If you haven't got this vibe from me, let me just tell you flat out, I am really proud of the work that you're putting in and what you're getting out of this class. That is a great gift to me. I want to thank you so very much. And in that spirit, let you know that I am often thinking about you. And for those of you that contacted me a little bit ago and that were having some health things going, I hope that the deck has been cleared, and I think about you and I pray about you. And at least for, like the next week, I will see you on Blackboard, because after that, it's all Canvas, baby. Okay. Everybody, bye-bye. God bless.